Hey everyone, it's Crystal from Sober Onions Podcast. This is season 2. I can't even believe it. It is 2022. I am here with my friend Curtis. He is in Vancouver, Canada. What's up, Curtis?
How you doing, everyone? Crystal, how are you? Thanks so much for having me on. This is cool. It's like a dream come true.
I am super stoked to have you on, especially because this is your first podcast. I've had a few firsts on here, and I'm just watching people like fly. And I know that you have been just such an awesome a part of the sobriety community, and you are getting super popular. So I think I contacted you, which now is wild that people are contacting me to get on the podcast.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Which is just wild to me, because when I started 3 months ago, another wild, I just for the listeners, I just got a little notice from the host that hosts my podcast, and for 2021 in 3 months, we had 750 hours of sober talk, which is wild to me, and I had 21 episodes, so just amazing guests, and 2,268 downloads. That is crazy. So that's the 2001. So we're going to be back in a year and I'll do the report then. But as far as me, so I just want to let everybody know how I'm doing. I am 8 months sober, and I made it through the holidays. Thank you, God. That was not easy. I don't care what anybody says about, getting through the holidays is like no big deal. Like, it's a super big deal. And my family doesn't even drink. So I had to deal with it, just my own personal mental battle, and just all the memories and deja vus and habits, like just even like cooking cookies, like I want my drink, I want my nightcap, I want all these things, putting up the Christmas tree, like I want to drink while I'm putting those ornaments up, so I did struggle through the holidays, but I had my sponsor there, and I had a big community of people that were supporting me, which is a lot of my message for this year. Last year, it was getting sober and the struggles and the ability to, because I'm doing it. Okay. So it is possible, even though when I was drinking and I was Googling if I was an alcoholic or what an alcoholic was or how many drinks it takes to become an alcoholic, because I was lucky enough not to have any trouble with the law. But I also, by the grace of God, did not kill anybody, because I drove drunk all the time. And I am apologizing to just the universe for that, because I could have really hurt somebody. But on that note, so this year I really want to focus on recovery and people finding sobriety, because I know when I was in my depression, in my drinking, I felt very alone, and I had zero idea that there was resources. When I Googled like sober, once I got sober, and all these like Instagram people came up and all these like podcasts, I was like, what is happening here? Like, wait a minute, people like have been sober like for 15 years. Like, this has all been happening while I was drinking. And so that is my message now. And that's kind of why I wanted to interview you, because you have an app coming out, the Sober app, which is so rad. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. But I think the thing that really is important to me about it is the fact that people are into apps, people are in their phones, and we need a reminder. I just had an alarm go off because I have a podcast tonight. We're dependent on our phone. It's an appendage now, I've seen these crazy videos where like people are on their phone and like things pass by, like they'll do like 2 clowns pass by, and then like 5 people on a bike, and like this person just keeps going and they don't even like see anything. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so me. I've run into like 5 poles, like just like looking at my phone. So it's ridiculous. So on that note though, 8 months ago when I got sober, my phone was what was taken away from me. And when I went into detox and I went into rehab, it's kind of like a ground zero, that's what I call it. I had to really have the complete collapse of my mind and my soul and my spirit and my body to get to the point where I'm at today. But we need those resources, and I did. I Googled, I looked, because that's where we look. So the fact that there's going to be the Sober app, something that can track your sobriety, is just absolutely amazing. But with that, I am still sober. I have a great relationship with my oldest daughter. I still have not heard from my youngest daughter, which was part of my just everything that happened over the holidays. I tried my hardest not to cry every second about it, because there's so much healing that has to happen. And I accidentally, so my cat died. And yeah, and that was a whole nother thing. And it wasn't really my cat, it was my youngest daughter's cat, and it was this big bone between us, but the cat died, and so now there's like no connection between us. So now it's like 3 years, nothing, and I was looking for a picture of me and the cat, so I could be like, R.I.P. Hewitt, something on social media. I don't know, something stupid. And I saw these texts that I had sent my daughter when I was drunk. And I had screenshotted them to like show her, and it broke my heart. It crushed me, because I realized how in my addiction, how the brunt of it went to my kids via texting, via phone. I don't understand why nobody has created a breathalyzer so you can blow in this and then it says do not text or whatever, but whatever,
There we go.
I know, but that would have been nice if I would have done that for myself a long time ago. But with that, I am doing good. I am still doing it. I still am with my sponsor. She's amazing. She takes out time for me. I do 2 to 3 meetings a week. I'm very heavily into AA, which now isn't for everybody. It was for me. It was how my grandma Nan got sober. When she passed, she was 27 years sober. And so it's very special to my heart. I am a social butterfly. So I've met a lot of friends. I went from Googling AA in Ventura, California, to throwing a giant sober event at the end of the year. So with that said, I'm stoked about this year and all the guests that I have on, and you being my first guest of my second season. So wow. A lot's happened too. My eyes have been opened, to so much clarity. So much clarity comes with being sober. I'm amazed. But with that said, there's so many stories behind it. And that's what's helped me is, everyone who's been listening to the podcast, they might pick an episode and say, oh, well, I remember Blackout, so I'm going to listen to Blackout. For me, the evolution of my recovery is what blows my own mind. If you listen to episode 1 and then you listen to episode 21, the amount of recovery that has happened in my life is outstanding, and it's continuing to go. And now I'm exploring other people's recoveries, and that is what has made me continue to do this podcast. So if anybody's listening, thank you so much for continuing to listen. There's so much exciting stuff coming this year. When I say exciting, knowledgeable, funny, I am going to continue to be raw and probably talk about things that make you uncomfortable, because I think that's what sobriety is. I have a hard time with the glamorous promotion we are doing right now for non-alcoholic drinks and for not drinking because it's dry January or whatever the cause may be. It's obviously a healthy thing to do, but my focus is to focus on people who have some real stories that we can all relate to, and we can show that recovery does work. So with that, I have a bunch of questions for you. So you are in Vancouver. You had your past, so you started drinking at 13, and you were the youngest of 4 siblings, and you got in trouble with the law, so I want to hear about that. And you started kind of doing like the medicinal, the coke, the drinking, all that fun stuff, partying, and then you had a bad accident. So I kind of want to hear, how did you start at 13. That's very young. And what were your reasons? And then how did it progress? And then why did you get sober? And then after that, we're going to talk about your sober bike ride. Sound
Okay.
good?
Yeah, that
All
sounds
right.
yeah. So I mean, so yeah, being the youngest of four, all 2 years apart. Basically, when I was in elementary school, my family was a very social family. So when I was growing up, everyone knew the Waslows in this small town. Not too small a town, Maple Ridge. It was about 50,000 people at that time. It's a lot bigger now, but we were like everyone knew. Oh, you're a Waslow. You're a little Waslow. So it was very we were popular. So when I got into high school, it was or in between high school, it was you're hanging out with all the other cool kids and you were doing the stuff. You'd start stealing booze from your parents' liquor cabinet, get a water bottle, put scotch, whiskey, vodka, Malibu in it, and just take shots. And it was like at that time we thought that was fun. That's TV glamorized it as getting drunk is fun. Your parents are drinking wine every night, your brothers are drinking, so it was okay. And I remember coming home, I think I was 13. Yeah, 13. I tried drinking here and there. This is when it was still like, once every couple weeks sort of thing. You're pretty young. But for instance, I came home, my brother was having a little house party, and one of his best friends was owned a skate shop and I was a big skateboarder back then. And I'd go out there, they're like, Kirk, come out here. And it was like, shotgun that beer and take a bong hoot, and I'll give you a free skateboard tomorrow. And it was like, done. No problem. Right. So here I am, 13, 14, just messed up out of my mind. And it was just a continuous thing like that. Started smoking a lot of weed in high school, more weed than drinking. As I got probably 16, 17, started dabbling in ecstasy. Never told myself I would never do cocaine. I just thought it was disgusting, putting something up your nose, gross, nasty. When I was, yeah, and then it was binge drinking. You would just go out being like, who can get blackout the first? That's the funnest thing. And the accident occurred, and I had just broken up with a girlfriend of mine, and I think I was 17, 18, and my dad just bought me this brand new, beautiful Ford Explorer like a year and a half before. And I decide that, because I'm breaking up, cool, I can go get wasted. The last thing I remember is being at a bar and ordering literally a jug of rum and Coke, and they sold it to me. And the rest is history. Apparently, I was driving around town, just like you said. I thank the universe so much that I didn't kill myself, one of my good friends, Maria, or anyone else. Luckily, I lost control of the vehicle in the rain, and I T-boned a tree, broke my femur. I was in the hospital for a couple weeks, and then just a long rehab. And then after that, it was just like, but it was like back to normal. Didn't phase me. I wasn't present back then. I didn't think about like, oh shit, yeah, I'm like lucky to be alive, people would always say, but it was like, yeah, lucky to be alive. Cool, let's continue this life. And then it just progressed. After that, it was I started dabbling in the cocaine. I stopped doing the ecstasy, started doing MDMA, dabbling in cocaine, and doing it a little more every party. Okay, doing a little bit more, needing a little bit more, building up that immunity. And at the same time, all of this was happening, and I wouldn't say I was successful, but I was always a driven person. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur since the day I remember dreaming, and always wanted to own my own business, always wanted to be wealthy. And that's where later in my years it got bad, because as I progressed through my 20s, the drinking and the partying, I would always quit things. I would be running this awesome business. I was 22. I was running one of the biggest gyms in Western Canada here. I was an operations manager of a 40,000 square foot Gold's Gym, brand new facility. I was 22 years old. Like half the people working for me were older than me. And I would like the partying. I would get to the point where I just would quit things. I would quit. And I would blame it on the party and be like, or blame it on, you know what? I wouldn't blame it on the party, and I'd blame it on the other things, the owner, the staff, everything like that. But deep down, it was the partying that really got to me. And as I progressed through my 20s, that was starting to take a toll on me, but I had never really thought about it till I got sober, that it was the partying that was causing all this. It was still, I was blaming everyone. I blamed everything else. I didn't take responsibility for a lot of things I was doing. Then my mid 20s, I got the opportunity. I had some friends that were, dabbling in, big beefs before. At the time in Vancouver, just there was marijuana dispensaries, but they were kind of a gray area. They weren't run by the government. It was a black market, but we allowed it kind of like Amsterdam did in Europe, right? So we I grew up with 10, 15 of my friends being weed dealers and they had massive grow ups, and I got the opportunity to kind of relate some things to them. I'm not going to say too much, obviously, but down the road, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I got arrested, and I was totally innocent, but because of it, it was involved drugs. It was 3.5 years in the court system. I got put in jail for a few nights, and it was the scariest thing of my life. And it was 3 years in and out of court, just nonsense, really. And that's what that did, is that built up a lot of debt, with my dad having to pay the bills. The same time I kept partying. But what it was that what I realize now that I'm sober is that was the moment where the alcohol and the coke went from partying to waking up and relieving stress, anxiety, the hate I had for myself for messing up so many times in life. And the only way I figured at that point to get rid of all these poor emotions rather than dealing with them and talking to people and was to drink and do cocaine, because that was the one thing that allowed me to escape reality. And that's when it became, one of those things that got worse and worse. And anytime I had a feeling, I just hated being in my own head. When I was out with people or I was dating someone, I was totally fine. When I was with family, I'd obviously still be drinking and partying, but I wasn't. When I was sober with friends and family, or someone I was dating at the time, it was great because I didn't have to think about me. I was having conversations with them. It was the moment when I got alone every day, or at night, or in the mornings, or walking home from work, that I hated myself. I had these thoughts where it was just like, it would just cause instant anxiety. And right when that happened, I would start shaking, and it would be like, okay, call my guy. And this is when it transitioned into, okay, I do coke every time I drink, to the only reason I'm drinking is because I'm high on coke. So that's when it got from, I was doing it every couple of days a week, to about 2 years ago, I was doing it every single day. I knew I had a problem. I knew it. I admitted it to myself so many times, but the problem was I was so scared to admit it to the world, because it just has it's getting better now. Like you just said, the stigma around it is slowly getting better. I love it because of people like you, but I was just so scared to admit to the world that I was a drug addict or I was an alcoholic. And I was hiding it. Because of that, I hit it so good, Crystal, that my ex-girlfriend, we dated for over 3 years, so 4 years, sorry. And she had no idea till I came out. Not a clue. My family, who I saw every day, my friends who I was with every other night, had no idea. Mm-hmm. And like, I would just play it so good and just pretend. Like, I remember being at my brother's place, watching hockey with some friends, doing coke in the bathroom. And we go out and they're like, Kurt, you want some coke? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that tonight. That's how hardcore lying I was about it, because I didn't want them to think I was a cokehead.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that, because so many people won't admit it. And like, I have my own story with that, because my husband was addicted to coke, and I actually liked coke because like you said, I could drink longer, I could drink, but it gave me like heart palpitations. Oh, yeah. So, and the coke's never the same, so it's like one coke's, this line, and then a week later it's a different person or a different bag. Yeah. I mean, we would go on a cruise, and my husband would find the first taxi that would take us to get some. Yeah. So, like, we're in the Bahamas, and I would try to do a little with him, because, it was something that was really, he was into and he was part of. And finally, after we had so many fights, I ended up doing Adderall to keep up with him, because it was the only thing I could do. Yeah. So, but I did start to do cocaine with him, because it was just how I could keep up with him, because he could killing at night. You know, he was drinking and he was like a rock star, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, there was times though that I drank so much and I blacked out and I did cocaine and I didn't even remember. And I'd wake up and I'd be feeling like crap, or I'd have to go teach a dance class. And I had this one time when I was teaching a dance class and literally a student came up to me and she's like, your nose is bleeding. Oh. And I was like, oh, well, about that, let me just wipe it off and continue to go.
Well, kids.
And so yeah, like I threw this huge ladies' night out event every year, right? And it was huge. And we would do this pre-party for the VIPs who paid extra for their tickets. Yeah. And my husband would come because he was, you know, he everyone thought he was so hot and cute and he, you know, they loved having him around. And he would be like, let's go to the bathroom so I can do some cocaine and I can give you your Adderall pill. And this is happening in like my best friend's house who has no idea, okay, that we're literally doing lines of coke and Adderall in their bathroom. And they would be like appalled, you know, and come out like nothing. We just kill the party. You know, it's all good. It was the only way to stay up. And but it wrecked our relationship. It wrecked our marriage.
Definitely.
And it also became an abusive relationship. It became physical. So because when he did cocaine, his anger issues kind of heightened. And I think a lot of people don't talk about all the things that happen, you know, when you're drinking, you know, like I'll tell you right now, like I've thrown like a heel at a boyfriend, you know, like I'm taking like a straight heel and like tried to actually make a hole in them. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, I had it with you. Here's my heel and a hole, you know? Yeah. And it's like, it's wild. Like all the stories that I'm now remembering because of my clarity in sobriety, you know, and all the things that surrounded drinking. I mean, I love Canada because obviously I have like all these Canadians on my podcast, but I dated 2 Canadians, like I told you, and I went to Ottawa because I was dating this guy in Ottawa and we were going to a comedy club. And, you know, because we were drinking and everything, but we went and we drove to Quebec because they had better weed over there, you know? Yeah. So like we literally drove in Canada to get weed. And and it was like you said, it was like at the time where it was like iffy. We were still kind of doing the secret pass off, you know? Yeah. And so, but it's still like that was just another connection and a bridge to the alcohol. It was like it just all kind of melded together. It was like cocaine, weed, alcohol, party, you know? Yeah, exactly. And so I completely get where you're coming from. And I think, again, a lot of people don't want to admit it because it's embarrassing. 2, you know, who wants, you know, this to be out in the universe, and their mom, like my mom, listens to the podcast. And so she's like, oh my gosh, I did not know all this stuff about you. And I'm like, don't listen to the podcast then because you're gonna get it all, you know. But she's really supportive and she understands that my recovery, you know, has nothing to do with my past, you know. It really doesn't. And so here you are, you're partying, you know, you're doing coke, you're now what I call partying turning to personal, which was my demise, was when it switched from fun in my mind, fun, to mental problems. Now I'm downing myself. I'm thinking I'm a piece of crap. I'm not a good sister. I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good anything. But then that drink tells me I am, and I'm okay again. Yeah. And we continue to go. Yeah. Exactly. I was talking to David. I just did a podcast with him on recovery nuggets, and we were talking about. I told him I felt like a frog, you know, like I'm just jumping lily pad to lily pad, and as they sank, you know, I just kept going until I literally drowned myself in my own situation. Because that's just who I was. And now that I'm sober, I just am meeting all these people and they're like, I have the same story, or I had this happen, or like you said, you know, you're 18, you're driving drunk, you totaled the car your parents bought you, you broke your femur. Okay. You're in that's crazy. Yeah. And, I want to know how that affected your bike ride. But you know, it's wild to hear all these crazy stories, and that's why I get overwhelmed with the podcast sometimes because there's so much work behind the scenes, and I had no clue because I'm like, hey, I can talk all day. This will be great, and then I realize I say a lot and the a lot, and
Oh my God, yes, me
know,
too.
the marketing side of it has become a job, and then someone will send me, you know, a message, and they're like, you know what, I stayed sober today because I heard your podcast, because I heard someone talk about the real world of partying, the real world of, you know what, your mom didn't know you were an addict, your dad didn't, maybe they saw you once or twice and questioned it, maybe he's acting odd, but if you're doing it so much and you're like this all the time, they think that's who you are.
Exactly.
That's, you know, so it's like they don't know you not sober, so that's who you are. So it's okay. You're just continuing to jump the lily pads, and so with that, you get to the end of, you know, where you've got financial issues. You now, you know, have, it's like you're out, you know, it's out that you're an addict, it's out that you've done drugs, your family knows, you're breaking up with your girlfriend. At that point, where are you at in your walk of life with your addiction?
So yeah, so just before I came out, I was literally, it was, I knew I had to come out. I didn't want to come out yet. I wasn't ready to come out. It came out, but I knew that if I didn't come out soon, I was just going to be so addicted and so heavily in this that this was either going to be one, the rest of my life, or two, with all the fentanyl going down and the amount of cocaine I was doing and buying it from so many dealers in a different day, I was going to be dead. And I'm surprised, thank the universe again, that I didn't get a bad batch, because they were up in Canada here, especially in Vancouver on the West Coast. The fentanyl, you're getting, you know, like 10, 15 people a week dying of fentanyl laced with cocaine, and not to mention other drugs. It was like hundreds of people dying a week. So basically I had a little side business where I built custom furniture, and it got to the point where I was using all the money from deposits to basically party and not finish these projects. So it got to the point where these people reached out to my friends and family and my girlfriend on Facebook, and it happened several times. And that's when it was like, everyone's like, dude, what the F is going on with you? Like, what's going on, man? And it got to the point where it caused a lot of tension between me and my girlfriend at the time. She was kicking me out. And I just said, you know what, if I just leave right now, I can at least just text her and open that conversation. At least I'm not ready to say it out loud. Like, I'm not ready to say this. Turns out, basically, she came out while she was kicking me out and was like, you're not leaving. Tell me what's up. So this was the hardest moment of my life, still to this day, I think. I was trembling. I said, I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. And right then and there, I just like fell to the ground, and like, it was painful, but at the same time, it was like, oh, holy shit. After that, friends and family got involved. Everyone knows. I relapsed 3 weeks after that. I thought I was fine. I told myself I was fine. I knew I wasn't fine. I kept telling myself, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. My girlfriend went away for a weekend, and I knew right away. I'm like, I can hide it. Perfect. She'll never know. The world will never know. I'm going to party on my own. Didn't work out like that. I guess, cross my T's and dot my I's and make sure everyone knew that I wasn't partying it anyway. So that was the end of us for that. And so this is when it got really dark. Like, I was living on my buddy's couch for a week, and I just had to get a new place. I moved deep into Vancouver, like out of the city. And I went through like 2 weeks of deep depression where I like couldn't even get out of bed. I was staying sober, but it was not good at all. I was crying for hours a day. I couldn't even function. Like, I wouldn't eat. I got down to like 140 pounds, which is like 20 pounds lighter than I was at the time, even when I was partying. And it was a really dark time. And the only thing I had, because I didn't have any sober friends like I do now. And I think thank God for that, to social media, honestly. I said, okay, I got to get better. Saw a psychologist a couple of times, but I just still felt so alone. I was doing virtual smart recovery. But at the same time, like, it helped a lot. It brought up my spirits, but at the same time, I just felt so alone. I read every book there was. I literally went through 12 books in 3 months. blackout, the unexpected joy of being sober, sober curious, biology of the desire of biology. Like I was in and out of the library getting every book. I had to make this work, because if I didn't make this work and I relapsed again, I'd be going to rehab. I'd be, who knows, I would lose everything that I already lost already, like I said. And that's when, like you said, like social media, I started a new account. I just wanted to, like, I started a new account, and I don't even know what it was. I've changed it a few times at this point, but
I know, you confused me on that. I'm like, wait a minute, he's what on social media? But whatever. But I agree. I did the same thing. I changed my social media. I actually got, like, God must have just known or something, because I got locked out of my Facebook that I had for like 12 years and had to start a new account, and I had to start a new Instagram account. And you know what? Now all I see is positive stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see anything negative. I don't see any of my friends partying. I don't see people clinking wine glasses over fireplaces. I don't see any of that stuff. And so I need that in my life. I need to be able to scroll in and see something that really resonates to me right now. And it changes day to day. And that's, part of my struggle is actually reaching people with something positive and making it relatable, because I've been through so much, and I feel like it has to do something for someone. And so I'm like, I overthink it, I'm like, it takes me like 2 days to get one thing out, but I'll get somebody who will message me and say, hey, I needed to hear that today. And that just keeps me going. So it's like that one person, because I was that one person that was looking out and needed help and Googling, and you were that one person, and we felt alone, and we were going through the same thing, maybe even at the same time, who knows, And so, I'm right there with you. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, because
I love it.
People need to know that there's resources, that there's people out there, that you're not alone. And even if it's a DM, even if it's like, what's up? I'm sober today. I'm 60 days, and I or somebody else can go, dude, congratulations, keep it up. Like, seriously, like, it's noticeable.
You said this at the start of the podcast, where like when it's something about social media, and you're like, whoa, I'm not the only one. Like when I was reading books and stuff, but it was like one book. Okay, cool. When I got on social media and started a sober account and started following #sober living, it was like, man, I'm not alone. Although I'm alone here, I am not alone. There was just hundreds of thousands of people posting, and this many days sober, 15 years. And it was just like, that really helped me. And I got to the point where I was just doing fine again. I didn't really have any urges, and if I did, I learned how to fight them. And I was getting healthy. I was back in the gym. I was working hard, like 3 jobs, starting to pay off my debt. But I got to a point where I was like, this can't be it. I need more than this. I need more than this, or I'm scared I'm gonna fall into, I can't do this for a year. I need to do something right now that's gonna shock me. And I started riding a road bike like a year before this, just because I lost my license due to drinking and not having my license, and I was in debt, so there's no way I was going to get my license back. So I started riding my bike everywhere, and I fell in love with it. And I'm like, I need to do something. I'm like, I'm gonna go on a bike ride, like a long one.
That was pretty long. Going across the states is pretty long.
I know. I'm like,
I was like, we got a sober Forrest Gump over here.
Yeah, seriously. Crystal, this was August, and I'm like, shit, I want to go like next month. It was fall. I wanted to ride across Canada, but it was fall in Canada in the winter. Good thing I didn't, because it's been a bad winter. So I'm like, I'm gonna do the Pacific Coast Highway, and I started planning, and I booked my trip. I canceled work. Literally 3 weeks later, I was gone, and I had no idea what I was doing. I knew kind of where I was going, but I was just like, I'm going to do this. And it scared the shit out of me, because the reason why I started partying so much is because I hated being in my own head. And I was going to literally be on my own for 3 to 4 months at that time. That's what I thought, in my own head. And I can solely say that the reason why I'm doing so good right now, and I'm so happy and just loving life right now and sobriety, is I think that trip kind of saved my life. it challenged me so physically, so mentally, more mentally. Physically, it was hard AF, but I thought I was prepared, but I you just couldn't train for that. So
Yeah, that's kind of my question. That was my question when I followed you, because I followed your trip. I like a lot of people did, and that's
yeah.
the whole point of posting is people are following you. And I was like, what happens when he gets to a city and it's like, this rad city and they're, I'm like the fireplace and the wine, I got this like romantic thing I got going on my head that I can't get rid of. And I'm like, what do you do? Just park my bike. I'll take a water, like I was thinking about that stuff because again, I obsess about drinking, but how did you have any triggers or did you have anything like sort of come up when you got to certain cities or certain places when you were on your bike ride?
I definitely had ninja thoughts where it was like, oh, I could have a beer here and nobody would know. But the work that I had put in, and now that people were actually starting to follow me and comment, be like, dude, I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm sober. Like, that was what kept me going. I don't have a huge following, but it was like 100 people that would constantly message me every comment, like every photo, and be like, dude, you're killing it. Like, keep it up. And that was that where it's just like, this is my life now. I want
Yeah.
to help others. And if I can do this and I can do something amazing like this and stay sober, then who can't? Everybody can. Or, and I was the first 3 weeks, it was in Washington, going through Washington. There wasn't many cities. I was on the peninsula. The biggest city I hit was Port Angeles. And so I was in my head a lot. It was a lot of, I had time 24 hours a day. And when I wasn't biking, I was in a campsite alone most of the time because it was fall and it was raining like crazy. So I just had a lot of time in my own head, and it wasn't the bad type that I thought it might be that scared me. It was like finally feeling happy about myself. Like, wow, I just rode 75K today. Like, good for you. And I never had these emotions and feelings before since I was probably, a teenager. And it just, things started clicking and things started changing. And it was just like, I felt this new me coming up, and it was like I was reborn. And so when I did get to big cities, it was like I just stopped having urges. I knew that alcohol just has no place in my life anymore. And of course with alcohol, neither does any drug. Like I became so, it's like when I was riding, I became so, it was almost like my ride, I was like meditating the whole time. That's what it was like. Like I learned to just not think the whole time, like 8 hours, not even thinking, just focusing on the road. So I got really good at just being present, and I fell in love with that. I loved being conscious and present in every second moment. And the moment the moment I have one drink, I lose that consciousness. Lose that presentness. I start getting, insecure, all those weird emotions. And I knew I just never wanted to ever feel those feelings again.
Yeah. It's crazy. I commend you for doing that for sure. I mean, and now before we end, I want to hear about the sober app. Why did you went on this bike ride? Okay, you've been sober. You've got a story. You were an addict. You've got some trouble with the law. You lost your license. There's so many people that have lost their license and they don't even talk about it. I'm not kidding you. I've never met so many people who don't have a license, and I'm like, you're 40. Like, why don't you have a license?
Totally, right?
Like what's happening there?
Yeah.
And it's like becoming the norm. Like, oh well, I've had 2 DUIs. I've had 1 DUI, and it's like, let's talk to the mom who lost their son or daughter because someone was drinking and driving. It's not funny, No. I don't think it's funny at all.
Totally.
And so now you're like, I'm going to create something for people to keep track of their sobriety, to have a resource. Was that something that just like popped in your mind when you were on your bike ride, or?
Yeah. So it started actually before my bike ride, because like I said, I was diving into every book. I was on social media. I was reading blogs. I was watching YouTube videos, and it was consuming my day. And I'm like, and a lot of the times I would listen to a full podcast, read a full book, watch a full YouTube video, and only part of that would get me. Or like you said, some people search for a certain podcast. And I thought to myself, I wish there was, like, I was using all the apps too, but none of the apps really had like almost like courses. And then I forgot about it during my bike ride. And when I got back from my bike ride, this is when I started getting back into real life. Okay. So how do I start going out with friends again sober and actually have a good time? How do I tell my friends I'm not the reason why I'm not drinking, even though they know, or strangers like, oh, you want a beer? It's like, no, I'm sober now. Like, how do I bring that up? How do I talk about my addiction openly? How do I go do karaoke for my best friend's birthday sober and have fun? How do I live a happy, blissful life? So I started digging in and like looking for things, and there was things, but again, it was all on these different platforms. And I thought, what if there was like a master class where it was like people teaching you things, talking about sobriety, talking about addiction, talking about how to be happy sober, how to deal with relationships, how to date sober again. And it was actually being taught by people who had succeeded in it. And that's where my mind started going. And since then, it's just been a snowball effect of obviously sobriety's helped my brain work properly. And I bring on a girl that she was my fifth person that I followed right before you, actually. Her name was Danny, and she's so passionate about sobriety, and we're contacting people like you, and we're just starting conversations. And the app has gone from just a simple kind of course-based thing to an all-inclusive sobriety app where you can track communities, courses from, like I said, sober dating and engaging stuff. We're going to do book clubs with like some big authors that have already come on board that are like, yeah, do book clubs. At the end of the book club, we do a Q&A with that author. So you're actually going to be able to do a Zoom call. We're going to do in-app support meetings, AA, Smart Recovery, SOS, Women in Recovery. We're going to have resources are going to be unlimited. And it's amazing. The last 3 weeks, especially, like I've told you, I've just been glued to my computer. And yeah, we're launching February 1st, and it's so dang exciting.
That's so awesome. I am in such a support of this because, like I said, myself, I needed help. I needed that help. I needed that accountability. And the first thing I did was Google. Everyone does it. So I'm going to admit it. I Googled, am I an alcoholic? I Googled how much is to drink. It makes you an alcoholic. I Googled, like, am I a good mom if I drink? I was like, can you recover from divorces? If there's a million things that, like you said, it's all in your mind. And that's the reality of my recovery is I'm in recovery with my mental health, because the alcohol was just my solution. My solution was to pick up the drink when everything in my head was happening. And so that's what we're trying to create, in this sober community, is that talking about it, seeing it, listening to it, you have to make it a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. And, I've been in lots of lifestyles. So, so this is a good lifestyle. But, for me, I think that, what you're doing is really good. And I'm excited to see what, the app has to offer. And, I'm super excited. I found you because Ryan, Designing Sober, he sponsored you on your bike ride. And that's how I found you. So, because I work with him with the sober wear. So that's a whole, like, it's this community that just comes together, and I love it. But this is to be said. Okay, I'm a very outgoing person. I am open about my sobriety. You're open about your sobriety. There's one person that's open, and there's 9 people that are not.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. And they're the ones going, I don't want to start a podcast. I don't want to start an app. I don't want people to know how hard my addiction is. But go ahead.
I was going to say they might even be thinking, I don't even want to go to a support group. I don't even want to go to AA or Smart Recovery or whatever. Like, I want to try and do this on my own if I'm that type of person. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's why your app is so important, because it shows people that they have resources where they can be behind the computer, they can be behind the screen, and they can get sober and stay sober.
Yeah.
And that is what is so important, because if I knew that, if I had those resources, I could have saved my relationship with my daughter. I could have probably been more successful in my businesses. I coulda, woulda, shoulda. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reality is now we have these because we have technology, and technology continues to escalate and get better and more knowledgeable. And so this addiction is centuries old. Okay. The AA book is centuries old. Okay.
Yeah.
I am not the first alcoholic, and you're not the first alcoholic or drug addict. And I'm not the first person who's done coke or weed. And I'm not the first person who's blacked out. This has been happening for decades and generations. And that's actually one of my podcasts this year, is because I come from a line of alcoholics, and I want to talk about that. My grandparents are alcoholics, and it just fell down the line, and it's genetics. There's something to do with DNA and genetics. So there's so much to learn about this. And when you get sober, to stay sober, you have to stay busy.
Yeah.
You have to be in a community. And maybe you're not the one who wants to be out there, because I know you're not going to see me like do these videos where I'm like talking to myself and then talking to myself. Like, it's not happening. Okay. Like, like, it's not happening. Like, it's not my personality. And go do, to each their own, But I'm also the person who scrolls past that stuff and goes like, not for me,
Yeah, totally.
And so the fact that you're going to have all the different dynamics, like you said, a master class. I love that. Like a master, like put it all in one place so you can access it. And whether your personality is this or that, or you want to listen to this or you want to listen to that, it's going to be available. Because I might go to a restaurant and I might order a salad and you might order the chicken. No one is the same. No one is doing sobriety the same. And that is why I have this podcast, because I can bring someone on and they're not going to have the same story as me.
Nope.
Because we're all doing it differently. But the reality is sobriety is possible. And that's my message. It's possible. There's resources out there. There's people like you and me. You took a sober bike ride, and then all of a sudden you're like popular, you just don't even know what's gonna happen. So it's like, it's amazing. So I had so much time, so much fun interviewing you. I can't wait to work with you on this app.
You.
Do you have any questions, anything you want to throw out there, anything you want to share with everybody before we get off?
I'm just super excited I want to shout out to you, because you're, like I said, I started your podcast on my bike ride, and I said this earlier in our chats earlier today. I was like, I started like 1 through 5 episode. And then when we were hopping on this and I was uploading your podcast to the app, I listened to every single one. And it's crazy how, like you said, you've evolved, not just your podcast, but yourself. It is so cool, because we're doing these big things for sobriety, and all we want to do is help other people know that they can recover. And the best part is, like, me and you are still so fresh into this. We're not 5, 10, 15, 30 years sober. I'm just coming up to 7, you're 8. Like, yeah, it's fascinating. And you're, what you've done the last 21 podcasts in 3 months, like, it's insane. It's helped me, and it's just, I'm so excited where we're going. And I just really hope we can, get in front of as many people as possible and help people relate and change the stigma.
Absolutely. And this being, the season 2 first episode, which I'm totally stoked about, that's what this next year's about, is, like you said, it's going to be a master class, because it's my recovery too. Like, you're following my recovery, like you said, like episode 100, like, I laugh. I mean, like 100 days, like, I'm like, wow, what was I even thinking starting a podcast? Like, it's amazing that we're evolving. But there is so many subjects, there's things to talk about. There's family that they're on the other side of sobriety and they don't know anything about it. And I have family members listening to my podcast and they're like, I had no idea, this is happening. And so there's also that genre of people that need to hear about this as well, because then they can be more support to the ones who are going through it. Because I know I've had family who have said, are you done yet? Like, are we good? Can we go have a glass of wine now? Are we good? Okay. Yeah. You done with this whole, like, with this whole, like, sober thing that you're doing, Yeah. So there's no understanding because they just can't wrap their head around it, and that's kind of where I feel like I'm coming in is bringing these people, and I've got you coming on with the app. I got a travel agency coming on in a couple weeks. Like, I've never traveled sober. Like, are you kidding me?
It's so
Like,
cool.
what? Like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I'm like, oh, we're traveling, we're on a cruise. Okay, 9:00 mimosas to 12:00, the whole thing of beer. Like, where's my bucket of beer?
Yeah.
And so it's just a whole new training, and that's going to be something I hope you put on your podcast. Or not on your podcast, your app. Travel, because I know I haven't gotten there yet. And so this is going to be funny because here we are, episode 1 of season 2, and I am petrified to travel because there's no way I can go on a cruise right now. Like, I forget it. I'm not sober anymore. Like, it's not happening. Like, I'm too fresh, and that's something that people have to realize. Like, you have to know your boundaries, because I know what my boundaries are. Like, I can't hang out with people who party every night. I just can't. I can't go on a cruise right now. I'm not ready for that. I'm not mentally ready for that. And so there's things that people want to do. They're like, I'm sober, I can do it, I know I can. And then they relapse and they're like, why did I relapse? And it's like, you have to put the armor on, which is all the things, you've got this armor on, and it's like, okay, you got your daily this, your daily that, you got your this and that. It's like you have to literally suit up every single day. And people do not understand that. Like, I don't go to bed and be like, oh, I had a great day. Like, tomorrow's gonna be so easy. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm like stressed out. I'm like, what's tomorrow? How am I gonna make it without drinking wine? Like, I pray, like, right now, 8 months, my biggest prayer is like, Lord, please take this desire away. Please take this desire away. And people don't talk about that, and there's all this fuss about the medications. Like, I did Vivitrol. I did naltrexone. I did all those things, and they work.
Yeah.
And you know what? I stopped it. I was supposed to take it for a year, and then I stopped it. So I went smack dab into wanting it again. Yeah. And, there's, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, I don't care if, like, go yoga is how you stay sober, like, whatever, like, just stay sober. Yeah. Like, do it. Like, if it's listening to podcasts, if it's doing walks, if it's going on a bike ride, whatever it is, just stay sober. And if you're struggling, reach out or Google or search or go on an app or do something to stay busy and to stay in this lifestyle, stay in this lane. Because I used to drive the freeway, in my life. Like, I was banging up, going the freeway, going back and forth, 4 or 5 lanes, whatever. And now I'm in one lane and I have to stay focused, because if I get out of that lane, I die.
Yeah, 100%.
I die. That's it. I die. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end. Sounds like you got some dinging going on.
I don't know what's going on here.
But I just want to say thank you again. You're awesome. Thank you for doing this. I know I'm in California. You're in Canada. I love Canada. Hopefully I'll get up there sometime for something travel-ish without alcohol.
I might be coming down to California in February.
Okay, well, here you go. Maybe we'll have to do something live. That'll be really fun.
Super
so
cool.
With that, I just want to say thank you to everyone. This is Crystal with Sober Onions. If you are looking to support the podcast or you want to sponsor, go ahead and go to the website, www.soberonions.com. And also, I want to just thank everybody from last year who supported the podcast, because we wouldn't be here without you, and for following my crazy journey and not judging me on all my crazy stories. So with that, I just want to say, you know what I'm going to say. If I can do it, we can do it. Peace out, everybody. See you next time.